So I shifted my target client to try to spend more time in the mid-size space, which is where they're just a little bit more sophisticated. They've already got a little bit of a foundation, and that we can build from there in from a more strategic lens. But then second for me, what I realized is my business, my income solely relied on hours worked. And so the more hours I worked, the more money I made, which was great. I was very happy with my income, right? And I was burning myself out working so many hours. And I could see that that was not going to be sustainable for me. So I needed to figure out ways to bring in some passive revenue that wasn't connected to hours worked.
Yeah. And you had so much, the intellectual property that you had built as a company, as a team, as you know, your own lifetime of experiences in the world of HR. You were able to say, okay, we've got richness in all of that, right? Hello, my extraordinary women friends. Today, I'm excited to introduce you to one of my Platinum Mastermind clients, Reagan Freed. Reagan is a visionary HR executive whose career spans over 2 decades of pioneering people strategies that not only align with, but propel organizational objectives. As the founder and CEO of Solvair HR Consulting, Reagan has masterfully navigated the consulting landscape, scaling her business to an impressive $600,000 in revenue in just a few short years. Today, we're diving deep into the journey behind her remarkable success. Reagan's consulting acumen is particularly focused on empowering small businesses and mission-driven organizations, bringing them the caliber of HR expertise typically reserved for industry giants like some of her former employers, CH2M HILL, Comcast, ECC, and Sitel. Through Solvair HR Consulting, she's democratizing access to world-class HR strategies, directly linking them to the bottom line and fostering sustainable growth. For consultants aiming to carve out their niche or small business owners seeking to leverage HR for transformative outcomes, Reagan's story is a beacon of inspiration and a treasure trove of wisdom. Stay tuned as we uncover the blueprint behind her thriving consultancy and how her passion for people is reshaping the landscape for small businesses and nonprofits alike. Let's meet Reagan Freed. Well, welcome to Extraordinary Women Radio, Reagan. It is so great to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun conversation. I love your business. You are such an impressive businesswoman and all that you have built. And I think it's going to be really exciting to hear your stories and your wisdom and really dive into the mix of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it was really fun having you part of my Platinum Mastermind this last year and getting to know you, getting to know your business, and then really, being in that space of seeing what was unfolding and what was next for you. And we'll dive into that. But first, where I really want to start is you did such an amazing job of within 4 years growing your business to over $600,000. That's so impressive. And I would love for you to share that journey of when you left the corporate world and to, how you got to that place of getting your business to that level in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, thank you. I am really proud of that.
You should be.
Yeah. And it's been a fun journey. It hasn't come without, blood and sweat equity, but
never does.
Exactly. But some of the things that I learned early on when I was building my business, a couple key things I would share. One, I established some strategic partnerships early on that while I was building my business and my brand and getting the word out there, I had developed these partnerships with other consulting firms who were bringing me work.
Yeah.
And so that helped me supplement my work and my income while I was growing my practice and my brand.
Yeah. And so you're an HR consultant. So tell everybody what your work is that you do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I spent about 17 years in corporate America working for large businesses as an HR leader. So my whole career has been in HR, and I reached that point that many of us reach where I think we call it corporate burnout.
Yep.
And
I have that. Been there, done that.
yeah. And that's what prompted, my desire to start my practice, to work for myself, to do the work I wanted to do, to work with the clients I wanted to work with. And so when I started my practice, I was very intentional about shifting the focus on who I wanted to work with.
Yeah.
So
Very
I come
smart.
from this large global Fortune 500 background. And I wanted to bring that expertise into the small and mid-sized business space.
Yeah. So really giving a value, that same value that you were able to do in the large companies, and bring it to smaller companies.
Yep. Yep. So I focus on helping small to mid-sized companies build their HR foundation and develop their HR strategy and their talent strategy and their employee value proposition and all the things that they need as they're continuing to grow and scale their business.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when you were working with strategic partners, who were what types of strategic partners really worked for you?
Yeah, there's other consulting firms out there that are a little bit bigger, or well, much bigger than me, where they keep HR consultants on their bench. And so it was a 1099 relationship where I had the ability to say yes or no to make sure that the work was right for me and what I wanted to be doing in my practice. And so I established a couple different partnerships just to help, keep my name out there, keep business flowing in, like I said, while I was trying to build my own practice and my own name.
Yeah. And that, for anybody who is a consultant who's listening, I mean, what a great way to build your businesses, right? Is to have these strong relationships where they're needed an additional bench strength. So I know that's something you and I have talked at length about. As other consultants are looking to grow their businesses, that's a really good way to do that.
I absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. What other tips do you have for women who are in that space of consultants ready to grow their business to that next level, or just, taking that leap? I think let's just start. I mean, there's so many corporate women who are taking that leap right now and wanting to be consultants. So what other wisdom would you share with them?
Yeah, well, I would say do it. Just do it.
Go for it.
It's worth it. Yes, yes. I mean, the passion and purpose that I have in my career again, it has been 100% worth taking the leap. And it's scary. I get it, but it is possible.
Yeah.
And I guess I mean, just some tips on doing it is just really figure out, why do you want to work for yourself? What is the focus going to be of your practice? Does that align with your personal passions and really what you want to be doing? And start with focus. And that is going to change. You're gonna think you're starting to practice to do X, Y, Z, and it will evolve.
Yeah,
but
that's
having
so true. For every whether you're a coach, whether you're a consultant, it's going to evolve and change, right?
Absolutely. And be open to that. Start with, your focus and your intention, and then be open to letting it evolve.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. I so love that. I love you were part of my Platinum Mastermind group this past year, and such a wonderful circle of smart, intelligent women, professional women who have done big things in their career, but all coming together and thinking about this, what's next of their business. And I see this a lot. I see this theme of change coming up for women, them wanting to change. They wanting to make things change in their business, this calling for something different. Even when there's a lot of success, but really listening to that inner wisdom can be so important. What was that inner wisdom for you that was showing up, and how did you play in that space of listening?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I would say that hit me after about maybe my fifth, sixth year now into my practice is when I sort of started to feel that. And I felt a little stagnant in my practice, and maybe even a little lost.
Mm-hmm.
I think I lost my connection to my passion and purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I reflect back on how I got there,
Yeah.
when we're all starting our practice, we have bills to pay, and we'll take any work, right? I said yes to everything, even if it wasn't, those sexy work I wanted to do. I said yes
Yeah. Yeah.
because I had bills to pay, like I said. But what ended up happening is I said yes to a lot, and I got to a point in my practice where I was doing things that I wasn't necessarily in love with doing. I was doing it out of necessity, but I had gotten to the point in my business where my revenue was strong, my financial income was, I had many streams that I had built that were coming in. And so I got to a point where I realized I had to make a change in order to, like reinvigorate that passion in my practice, which meant I had to start saying no.
Yeah.
And I had to let go of some of the clients and the work that just really didn't serve me. And that was the question actually that you asked us at your Ignite conference that kind of sparked the aha moment for me. The question you asked was, is your business serving you? And that's when I realized, no,
there was something that needed to shift.
now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think what you're describing is, I mean, we all go through this phase, and we go through that phase multiple times over the, I've been in my business now for 14 years. I've under my belt. And so I've gone through different evolutions over the course of those years. And it's always they're a gift when we start to get these little seedlings that say, ooh, there's something different here. And it could serve me in a different way. And that's a beautiful thing, because when we start getting curious about that, the newness of what else could be, what else is possible really starts to evolve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what evolved for you as you started thinking through that?
Yeah. Well, for me specifically in the work that I do, what I realized is I wanted to get a little less tactical and a little more strategic.
Yeah. And you already had team members. You had several team members already.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was a shift of like, okay, but what else does this mean for me, right?
Yeah, exactly. So a couple of things for me. I wanted to change the type of work that I was doing. I needed it to be a little more fulfilling. And for me, that means a little more strategic and more challenging and thought provoking. So I shifted my target client to try to spend more time in the mid-size space, which is where they're just a little bit more sophisticated. They've already got a little bit of a foundation, and that we can build from there from a more strategic lens. But then second for me, what I realized is my business, my income solely relied on hours worked. And so the more hours I worked, the more money I made, which was great. I was very happy with my income, right? And I was burning myself out working so many hours, and I could see that was not going to be sustainable for me. So I needed to figure out ways to bring in some passive revenue that wasn't connected to hours worked.
Yeah. And you had so much, the intellectual property that you had built as a company, as a team, as your own lifetime of experiences in the world of HR. You were able to say, okay, we've got richness in all of that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that helped me kind of start to think out of the box too, of what could I be doing beyond just consulting in my practice. There's more value I could offer my clients. And I think joining your mastermind group and leveraging my network and my team, there were a lot of people involved in helping me brainstorm that.
And you launched a series of online products that could really serve your clients in a deeper way, but also serve the smaller companies in a bigger way.
Yes. One of the main questions I'm asked in my business is, I have this new manager. Where can we send them to training?
Right.
And it was an answer I couldn't give them.
Right.
couldn't find a great resource for them. So that is what I honed in on as my kind of new niche, if you will, and
Hmm.
where I could find some passive income. And so I
Right.
developed leadership development courses specific to someone who's new to a management position
Right.
and trying to
Right.
help them build the basic supervisory skills.
Yeah. And what I loved about this was it really gave you an opportunity to not only serve a broader base of clients on the bottom side, but also your upper level clients that you really want to turn your focus to. They
Mhm.
had new resources that they could tap into as a client of yours. So you really up the value of how just another way you could serve those clients.
Yes, absolutely.
What did you learn about the launching of a product like that from the perspective of pulling out your wisdom, pulling out your information, and bringing that to life? Just any lessons you learned on how does a company that just think about somebody listening right now
Mhm.
that they know they've got all kinds of richness and resources in their company. Any advice that you would give on bringing that to life?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a couple things I would suggest is one, have patience.
Yeah.
Anytime you launch a new product, a new service, it takes time to build. It took time for me to build my consulting business. And I think I had forgotten that.
Yeah.
So when I launched my products, sort of massive level of interest and income and like any new product, it's taken time to build. So
Yeah.
patience,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think, is something to keep in mind. Then I would say, tap into your network, into your
Yeah.
current client base. Go to the people who know you, who can be kind of that testimonial for you, not necessarily of your new products, but of you.
Right.
And leverage those people to help you promote your new business. So, for example, what I did is I went to all my clients and gave them a big discount. They all got a unique code where they could access those trainings at a discounted rate. I also offered the same to my network, other
Yeah.
consultants who might have clients who could take advantage of these trainings. I offered them a big discount. And so that sort of helped get the ball rolling in terms
Right.
of just organically promoting my new product.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I know the other thing is last year for you was also a significant year of inner focus, which is so
Mhm.
often the case. It's like, we have outer life going, we have inner life going.
Mhm.
Can you share what prompted your focus on inner growth? And just, how things transformed for you?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. But at the end of last year, I got to this place, like I mentioned, where I was feeling kind of stagnant in my business, but that was true for me in my personal life too. I
Yeah.
sort of got to this place in life in general where
Yeah.
I knew I needed to make some big shifts. I wasn't too sure what they were, but
Yeah. So both the business, so that's 2022, the end of 2022
yep.
is both the business and life. You could just feel this kind of calling for more
Mm,
there, right?
exactly. Exactly. And so I think um, part of what I allowed to drive me last year to sort of tap into that and figure out what I needed and where I wanted to go and what it meant for me
Mhm.
was to really push myself out of my comfort zone.
Mm,
I'm
that stretch.
really routine. Yes, I'm a very routine person. I have my habits and I love my comfort zone, but I knew that in order to really push my business to the next level and in my personal life too, I had to start doing things differently and push
Yeah.
myself out of the comfort zone. And I would tell you that's where I have found the magic.
That gives me goosebumps actually, right?
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
stepping out and just owning it and
Yeah.
moving and so the courage, what would you
Mm.
say about like finding that courage? Because it takes
Oh gosh.
courage.
Oh my gosh. So much courage and like deep breathing and figuring out how to manage my anxiety. Like there was a lot that came with trying to push myself out of the comfort zone. But for me, the why and what I wanted to achieve was so much bigger that it
Mm-hmm.
was worth pushing through the fear and the stories we tell ourselves and
Mm-hmm.
the anxiety that was consuming on some days, pushing through that because I knew I wanted more.
Yeah.
And I found it. So
Yeah.
it was worth it.
Yeah. Oh, I love it so much. And I love watching your social posts and where you're at and what you're
Thank you.
doing. They're always so much fun. They're like, you've really created such a beautiful life for you
Thank you.
and living true to the values that you have. I really admire that. So,
Thank
I
you.
see it I see it in what you do. I see it when we get to be together in person. And so I just kudos for all that you've done. And for all of our listeners, just know this, that life is living, we've got our business, we've got our life, and it's all integrated. And it's not just one thing, but it's like one or the other. It's all integrated, and we're there. And when we, and I'm going to prompt this, I think, Reagan, with when we really listen to that call to step into things in a more courageous way, what happens with our businesses and our lives? I mean, what's the outcome of that?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
Yeah. What is there anything that you would say that outcome? What's the big outcome that breaks through when we step into our courage?
I think for me, it's just sort of reinvigorated me in my life and in my practice and in my friendships and relationships. I mean, it's really lifted everything for me.
Yeah, I see it. It's so cool. So
Thank you.
cool. Yeah. So, where can people learn more about you and your business?
Yeah, I have a website. It is solvairehr.com.
Mm-hmm.
My company name is Solvaire HR Consulting.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a great place, or find me or my company page on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's a great place. Cool. And the final question I always close with are, what are 3 pearls of wisdom you'd like to share with us today?
Let's see. Well, I think the first one is listen. Just really listen to that inner voice, that niggle in your stomach, whatever it is. Stop and listen.
Yeah.
And then go for it. Whatever it is, go for it. There's nothing you can't do. If you tap into your courage and put your mind to something, it will happen for you.
Yeah.
And I think the third one is just push yourself outside of your comfort zone. Get really, really uncomfortable. And that is where you will find the magic.
There's magic in the stretch, isn't there?
There is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Reagan, this has been so much fun. Thank you for coming on and sharing your good wisdom today. And for any of you consultants out there, I hope you really took away some good insights for how you can apply this in your own business, because I think this is the opportunity that, Reagan's such a great role model in that space. So thank you for sharing all of your stories, Reagan.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be with you today.